Power 4.4, because you know what? The people are the power.
Yeah.
Tune in to the best radio show on planet Earth, SME, from 6 to 7 every Tuesday. We're truly undefeated and can't be beat. Even though the show is called SME, it's not just about me. We work as a team to build our dream.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Salt and pepper and heavy tea up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack Mr. Magic Molly Mall.
It's your host, King JTH, here for episode 4 of SME. Today, we have a special guest, Ray Signor, Philadelphia Eagles own wide receiver. How you doing here? How you doing, Ray?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing outstanding. The weather's good, and man, I'm just enjoying my life.
That's good. I got a lot of questions to hear for you. First off, when did you become interested in playing football?
You know, that's actually a great question, and it's probably a better question you realize. So I really wasn't really interested in playing football most of my life. I mean, I played like as a kid, like you do in the community, in your neighborhood. I played with my friends, and then when I went to high school, I wasn't going to play football. I was just going to play basketball because I consider myself a basketball player. And then my coach in high school, he made me play football, and then I still didn't like it, even though I got a scholarship to play football in college. You know, but then I quickly realized that I was going to have an opportunity to play professional football, and they was going to pay me a lot of money. I started liking it a lot more then.
That's what money would do to you. I'm going to pass it off to my man, Nick. Nick, he's going to ask you some questions as well.
What's your opinion on the new hip drop tackle ban?
Say that again?
What's your opinion on the hip drop tackle ban? That's a new NFL rule that was put in place.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with the hip drop. I'm very familiar with it. I mean, you know, I'm going to tell you like this. So, you know, as a player, man, you know, I'm all about player safety. You know, the fact of the matter is, man, the reason that they instituted that rule is because guys are starting to get hurt, right? And so, you know, if anything that's going to help a guy, you know, prolong his career, stuff like that, be safe, you know, because at the end of the day, man, you know, we all got families that we want to go home to and want to, you know, raise our kids and stuff like that. So I'm glad about it.
When did you first start to take football serious?
Well, I started taking football serious really probably my junior year in college. Since my junior year in college, man, I started having the kind of success on the football field that I wanted to have, and that I always thought I was capable of having. And like I said, then I started realizing that, you know what, man, if you take this serious, man, you could probably make a living doing this.
Nick's turn again.
If I'm correct, you were drafted by the Steelers, right?
Yes, I was.
All right, so I'm a huge Steelers fan, so here's my question. Who were your 3 favorite Steelers teammates for the short time you were with them?
So my 3 favorite Steelers teammates would probably be me and Joe Green. Now, I'm going back before you guys were born now.
Oh, yeah?
When I was playing for the Steelers, there were no Ravens around. Right? So my 3 favorite players were me and Joe Green, Benny Cunningham, who was the tight end, played the same position I played, and a guy by the name of Mel Blunt.
Blunt? Oh, yeah. I know a lot about
Mel
him.
Blunt was a beast.
That's
all-time
awesome.
legend.
Yeah.
Did you get to know those 3 at all?
I hate to say it as a Ravens fan, but he's an all-time legend.
Did you get to know those 3 at all?
Say that again?
Did you get to know those 3 at all?
Sure, then, you know, that's one of the beauties of being a part of a team, right? You get a chance to, you know each other, hang out, talk, exchange ideas, and all of that stuff. So, yes.
That's awesome.
I noticed that you used to play tight end. I think specifically when you were in high school and potentially even in college. So what made you switch from being a tight end to a wide receiver?
Well, let me take you all the way back. So in high school, I was a quarterback, right? So I played quarterback in high school, and then when I went to college, I started playing outside linebacker, right? But then my junior year, the year that I really started having a lot of success, they moved me to tight end. And so the thing that now, what you may not know is I'm 6'9" inches tall, but the reason I started playing wide receiver was because I was as big as I was the fastest guy on the team. And you know, wide receivers are typically fast, can run and catch. And so I was a big guy that could do what those smaller guys could do. And so they moved me to wide receiver to try to get me a few more touches.
Very interesting. All world, man, can play throughout the whole field. I like players like that. But it's back to Nick.
All right. How much does the media and reporters actually know? Meaning, how accurate is the information they report?
Well, you know, that depends on the reporter, to be quite honest with you. You know, some guys, you know, some reporters, they report it as they see it. Some people like to embellish. You know, there's an old saying that I remember a reporter said, I'm never going to let the truth get in the way of a good story. So, you know, that's how some people are.
Yeah. Sometimes tell some of those stories are exaggerated. That's always good to hear from a player's perspective.
Yeah, it was so different like when I played than it is now because we didn't have social media, we didn't have camera phones, we didn't have cell phones. So people could create the narrative that they wanted to create, and because they had the power of the pen, you know, people believe what they read, right?
Yeah.
What was the hardest part about being an NFL player during your time? And I guess, you know, you just mentioned that nowadays we have social media. So what do you think is the hardest part about being a football player or athlete today?
Another part about being successful, period, is to remember why you're there, right? That's number one. Remember what got you there, and not forgetting where you came from. Because it's so easy, you know. When you're in the NFL, people worship you. People make exceptions for you. And if you're not well grounded, right? If you're not well grounded, if you don't know who you are, if you don't remember where you came from, and know that if you don't remember where you came from, you're destined to go back to it. So, man, those things, you know, just being grounded, just having integrity, just staying focused, because there's a lot of, like, think about how it is in your life right now. Just living in the world that we live in, you got so many distractions, right? But can you imagine being a professional athlete where people know you got money, people know you got fame, and everybody, you know, not everybody, but a lot of people out to get something for nothing from you.
Back to Nick.
This is kind of a unique question. What was your opinion or thoughts on Chuck Noll as a coach with the little time you were with him?
Well, Chuck Noll, I thought Chuck Noll was a great guy. I didn't understand. I really believe that Chuck Noll was a Christian. I don't know that for sure because I wasn't. But he had a demeanor about him. He had a glow about him. He had a persona about him. Man, one thing about playing with the Steelers, when they drafted him out of college, they had just won their 4th Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So when a guy like you came along, right, they, you know, it was different because they were an established team, and I'm trying to figure it out. So I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with Chuck Noll, but I got a chance to watch him from a distance.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
What was your workout routine when you were playing in the NFL? And also, you can talk about college as well as high school if you want.
Well, you know, as a kid growing up, you know, as a pro athlete, you know, you got to work out a lot. So I worked out. I just worked out, man. I used to love to work out when it was the hottest. I loved to work out when nobody else wanted to work out. I just love to work out because I love physical fitness. And then, you know, to get paid to do it, man, it was nonstop.
Back to Nick.
What was it like getting drafted?
You know, being drafted was a dream come true, right? Because, you know, most pro athletes, if you're amateur and you're trying to go pro, you know, most pro sports have a draft, So it's a privilege to get drafted, So, I remember the night before the draft, I got calls from different NFL teams saying, hey, we're going to draft you tomorrow. And even on draft day, teams would come and say, hey, man, who's draft you when you want to play? And so I spent my draft day, like, in my house, because I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin. So I spent my day in the house sitting by the phone. And that was kind of a challenge because it wasn't like it is now where the draft was on TV and you could see who got drafted and when you might get drafted. And we didn't have that opportunity, so we had to wait for long extended periods of time until we found out if you'd been drafted or not. So that was a little bit challenging, but to realize I had gotten drafted was so exciting.
Must have been.
What advice would you give to current day NFL players?
Well, I'll give a lot of advice to players. I've actually had the opportunity, I'm an ordained minister, so I've had the opportunity to speak to several NFL teams, just about all of them. And the biggest advice I give people, is number one, enjoy the moment. Enjoy it within reason. Remember I said earlier about don't forget where you came from and don't forget why you're there. Because, see, people will take, you got a lot of people out here, like the distractions. And so I tell people, stay focused, become the best you can be and enjoy the journey. Because it's not a destination. And some people think that once you get drafted, once you get on the team, that you've arrived. But see, in life, you never arrive. Always strive to get better. And make sure you hang out with the right people because, the company that you keep or influence, says a lot about you. And it says a lot about how far you will be able to go in life.
That's all facts.
What is it like for an NFL player to play against their favorite NFL team or a team they used to play for?
Oh, man, it's great. I mean, that's why we're there. One reason that you play sports is because you like to compete. So you always want to play against the best. You always want to play, measure yourself. See, one advantage that athletes have is this. Like sometimes people say, I got a test in school, I got a test coming up, this, that, and the other. And a lot of people that don't come from a sports background, they look at tests and get intimidated. But we're wired to embrace a test. We embrace challenges. Like, man, I can't wait to see where I'm at, to see how far I've come, and see how far I need to go. And so, man, you live for that. That's why you're there.
Who do you think were the top 5 best players in your era?
Well, in my era, one guy I played against, his name was Lawrence Taylor. And so Lawrence Taylor was, some people say the best football player ever to live. So you had Lawrence Taylor, of course, me and Joe Green. Now, mind you, that Pittsburgh Steelers team that I played on had 13 guys off that team that went to the Hall of Fame. So that's a tough question, right? Because, then when I went to the Philadelphia Eagles, we had one guy. And maybe in the Philadelphia Eagles history, in the whole history of the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe 2 guys have gone to the Hall of Fame. Can you imagine 13 guys off of one team in the Hall of Fame?
Truly
that's incredible.
Yeah. To me personally, I think Lawrence Taylor is the second greatest football player ever. I gotta go with my guy Ray Lewis. He brought a new franchise, a Super Bowl within 5 years. Not a lot of people can say that.
I know Ray. Ray's a great guy. He's a great football player. He was a great football player. Nobody can argue with you there.
Do you think NFL players in the modern day are getting paid too much money?
I don't think anybody's getting paid too much money. If they're going to pay you, then I think you should get it. Because I want you to focus on something, right? So how much, let's just say like Lamar Jackson's making $60 million a year, right? Can you imagine how much the guy that's paying him is making? And he ain't got to take none of those tackles. He ain't got to go no passes. He ain't got to do none of that. And, remember, the lifespan of a pro athlete is a lot shorter than the lifespan of an owner.
That's true. I respect that answer a lot.
That's a fact. Okay.
Yeah.
I know I just talked about the top 5 players in your era. What do you think were the top 3 teams that you had to go up against in your era?
That I had a chance to play against?
Yes.
I mean, so when I was playing, so we went to the Super Bowl when I was with the Eagles my first year. And our rival at that time was the Dallas Cowboys. They were pretty good. And of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers, were very good. And then the Giants with Lawrence Taylor and those guys, man, those are all great teams, great man, it was great to play against teams like that. I enjoyed it a lot.
Who do you think is the greatest?
That was those guys, man. Those are all great teams. Great, man, it was great to play against teams like that. I enjoyed it a lot.
Who do you think is the greatest tight end of all time?
Me.
I love the confidence.
That's the answer.
I believe you. You have to believe that to be. You have to believe that. I talked about this on my show. You have to believe that to be as great as you is. When I get on this radio station, I really do believe me, Nick, and everybody else that get on here, we're the best in the world. We can go toe to toe with Stephen A. Smith on any sports take. I really do believe that when I get on this mic, and that's the only reason why I'm able to perform the way that I do.
That's right. I mean, somebody asked me today about an opportunity that they had, and they asked me, do I think it's going to work? Well, I think anything that I'm involved in is going to be, it's going to work, and I'm going to be the best at it. But, you know, I'm a praying man. I believe that when you add God to any equation that you're involved in, you know, you add God super to your natural, you can do supernatural things. But, you know, I guess, you know, I look at a guy named Kellen Winslow. He's a great tight end, you know, and it's all relative. I want you to understand something, especially in sports. So if you're getting the right system, the way that you play to your strengths, now you can do things that you wouldn't ordinarily think you can do. But you get in the wrong system, and sometimes, you know, you don't get a chance to be as good as you could possibly be just because of the fact that they don't play to your strengths.
Very true.
Coaching in the NFL definitely matters. Some players need more development than others. Some players need their egos checked. So, yes, the right coach can come a long way.
And another thing I want to say, right? So let's just think about this, right? So say like a guy like me that I'm telling you about, big guy, big, tall, fast guy, right? So now, if you ask me, if you put me out there and let me run, nobody can run with me, and I'm 6'9", so I can do my thing all day long. There's nothing they can do to stop me. But if you take a guy like that and say, you know what, I want you to block all day, well, I'm probably not going to be as good because football is a game, the little man wins, is a game of leverage. Well, I'm 6'9", everybody's going to be able to get lower than me, right? So all of that stuff factors in. If the coach puts you in a place where you can't, you know, you're not able to do what you're really able to do best, and then, you know, success breeds confidence, right? So the more successful you are, like you said, once you get on that mic, right, you know you're the man. Well, but just imagine if you're up there and you know you're the man, but you can't get on the mic. You know? And so you're not going to feel as good. And they telling you, you know what, we're not going to put you on the mic, but what we'd like you to do is mop the floor. You know, well, you may not feel the same way about yourself, you know? And you may even start thinking something's wrong with you. So all of that stuff matters. And it matters in life, but it especially matters in sports.
Execution is key. As we see the great dynasty teams that won 3+ Super Bowls executed in the fourth quarter. The Patriots did it. The Chiefs are doing it now. The Steelers did it back then. The Cowboys did it back then. So that's the 49ers. Almost forgot about them. So execution is definitely key. What position do you think you would play today?
You know, execution is super important. Teamwork, you know, and then also, you know, just, you know, playing to your strength, right? You gotta play, you know, to your strengths and your playing strength. All that builds good character, good morale, all of that stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. On to my next question. I think, what position would you play in today's league?
Man, in today's game, I would love to play tight end because a big guy like me, they use tight ends like they use wide receivers back in the past, right? They allow you to get out there, run and catch and jump, all of that stuff.
All right.
Back in the past, right? They allow you to get out there, run and catch and jump, all of that stuff.
All right. My next question is, did Jack Lambert intimidate you or any of the other Steeler players back then? Because I know he was known for being
No, I mean Jack Lambert. You know some football. I love that. So Jack Lambert was an intimidator. I mean, you can't play. I mean, I never was intimidated by him, but there were people that were intimidated by him. He never went about to try to intimidate his teammates. He sometimes tried to intimidate like rookies and stuff like that. But man, you coming in there, man, trying to do your thing, man. You ain't got time for that.
Oh, yeah. I asked you about your workout routine earlier. What was your diet? Like, how did you have the diet being an athlete?
My diet was horrible because back then we didn't like they do now. We didn't know about nutrition like they do now. So back then, like, nutrition wasn't a big factor. I mean, we ate everything and, all that stuff, man. It was different.
Here's my next question. Do you think the NFL today is too focused on making money, bringing in revenue and all that?
I mean, it's a business, right? So, I mean, sometimes I know some people get upset about that. I don't because, it's a business. It's a business. And so in a business, one of the main things you want to do is you want to make money. And that's what they try to do. And that's what they do. They do it well. It's a multi-billion-dollar business.
That's a fact.
Yeah, I mean, just like, like we talk about being, on the mic and all that kind of stuff. And if you were in the position and when you will be one day, if that's your goal, you're going to try to make as much money as you can. And, so that you can, do the things that you want to do.
That's a fact. Speaking of all facts. Not too long ago, I just asked you about what position would you play today. Do you think it would be easier for you to play in today's game versus when you actually played football?
Oh, yeah, be honest. No, it's a whole different game because it's less physical than it used to be. The rules are set up for offenses to do well, right? So as a tight end, a big guy like me, people can't really hit you. Now, if you can't jam me at the line and stuff like that, you're going to have a hard time against a big guy. I'm 6'9", 250 pounds. So if you can let me just run free, what can you do? You're going to be in trouble.
I know Nick is getting ready for his next question, but I'll add on to it. How many yards do you think you could get as a tight end or wide receiver in today's games? And how many touchdowns do you think you could get?
I mean, again, a lot of that has to do with the right system, right? You get in the right system, man, you can do what you need to do, because if you throw me the ball, I'm going to catch it. And if I catch it, if you got them little guys out there trying to tackle me, I'm probably going to score a touchdown.
Oh, yeah. Nick's turn.
Who do you think was the most underrated or just most looked over player from the Steelers' big dynasty? There's so much star talent. Some players have to get overlooked.
Well, there's a lot of guys on that team, but let me think, who was probably the most underrated. Because all those guys got a lot of notoriety. But I'm going to say, with my college mate, a guy named Mike Webster, he went to the same college as I did. To me, he was the epitome of what the Steelers were about.
Yeah.
He was a hard-working, tough-nosed guy, and never complained. He just did his job.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
My next question is, what do you think is the biggest reason why you were not able to achieve the win the Super Bowl, get the Lombardi Trophy?
Well, because I was on the wrong team. Like when the Eagles, when we went to the Super Bowl, man, we just played our worst game of the year. We probably were overcoached. Our coach, Dick Vermeil, was his first Super Bowl. He wasn't. He just tried to do too much. How y'all ever saying, you're doing too much, he was doing too much.
Okay. I'm going to guess which Eagles team you were on. The 1980s Eagles? That's what you're referring to?
I am.
Okay. I think it's Nick's turn now.
What was it like losing the Super Bowl? Like, had to be some emotion in there. Like, how devastating, how hard was it to deal with?
Want me to say that again, please?
How did it feel to lose a Super Bowl? How hard was it to deal with?
Oh, that's super hard. I mean, it's funny. Now, think about this. On Super Bowl Sunday, only two teams play, right? The two champions from their both conferences. But when you lose the game, you feel like a loser. You don't feel like a winner. You feel like a loser.
That's a fact. I couldn't imagine losing a Super Bowl. Sometimes I get mad losing regular games, so I can imagine the biggest game ever.
To be quite
Since we on the Super Bowl topic, what would you have done differently to get that Lombardi trophy?
Well, I just think if we had gotten our rest and our coach would have relaxed a little bit more, I think we would have done a lot better.
Oh yeah. Oh.
We got a coach through the Raiders that we played. They didn't have coaches or anything, and so man, they when they played that game, man, they played that game. They were loose, we were tight, and that's why they beat us.
I have an add-on question to the Raiders. I noticed that they won the Super Bowl in 1976, 1980, and 1983. Do you consider those Raiders teams an NFL dynasty?
I don't. So when we lost to the Raiders in 1980, one of my college teammates played for the Raiders, right? And so it was, kind of difficult, because he always brings it up every time I see him, obviously. But I didn't see it as a dynasty. I saw them as a very good franchise.
Very interesting. Me personally, I would, if you consider the Redskins who won from 1982 to 91 a dynasty, I feel like you would have to consider that Raiders team a dynasty. They both won 3 championships. That Raiders team beat Washington head to head, I believe 38-9 in the Super Bowl. Somebody can fact check me. And the Raiders went to 3 Super Bowls. I believe they went to about maybe 5 or 6 championship games, maybe even more than that, maybe less than that, but somewhere around there. I would have, and they did all of that in an 8-year span. I would have to consider that a dynasty. Maybe not as dominant as the other dynasties that we've seen, but I would have to consider that a dynasty.
You got to look at the Steelers, who won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. You got to look at the 49ers, right, who dominated the 80s. Then you got to look at the Cowboys, who dominated the 90s. Then you got to start getting into them Patriots teams, So I wouldn't put the Raiders in there personally, but
I think they're a lower tier dynasty. Out of all the dynasties that you named, I think they're definitely worse than the other ones besides Washington. I think that's debatable, right. But I would have to give them the edge, especially because they beat them head to head. Not just beat them, they destroyed them head to head. But I would consider them a low tier dynasty because I feel like once you get that 3rd championship, you're solidified.
No, I respect that.
Who was your favorite player modern day, current player? Who's your favorite?
My favorite player nowadays, probably Lamar Jackson. I like Lamar a lot.
Yes. Oh yeah. Where do you think Lamar Jackson will go?
I like Lamar a lot, man. I like his style of play, and I like the way he carries it, off the field too.
Where do you think Lamar Jackson will rank all time if he wins the Super Bowl?
I'd like to win more than one, man, and get ranked up at real high. I mean, he got 2 MVPs, but he had to win 2 or 3 to become, one of the all-time greats. I mean, he win 1, he'll get to the Hall of Fame, but he got to win 2 or 3 to be, a lot of guys ahead of him.
I mean, a lot of guys in the top 10 only have 1 ring, though. Like Aaron Rodgers only, well, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers is top 5, probably 5th, though. He only has 1 ring. Guys like Brett Favre and Steve Young only have 1 ring. Guys like Kurt Warner and John Elway and Drew Brees, they only have 1 ring.
No, John Elway got 2.
I mean, no, I meant Drew Brees. I meant Drew Brees. I was thinking of the Super Bowl MVPs. John Elway has 2. But everybody else that I mentioned only won 1 as the man, because Steve Young technically has 3, but he was a backup.
Yeah. So, it's too early to say right now, because, you still got, years left, man. I think Lamar, he'll get a couple Super Bowls with the Ravens. And I expect they should have won 1 last year.
Okay. Since I talk about Lamar, I got to talk about Mahomes. What do you think about him as far as those all-time rankings go?
I mean, a lot of people put him at number 1. I mean, he's way more talented than anybody we've seen. And if he wins 1 more, I mean, nobody's going to win like Brady did, I don't think. But, they're going to be up there. I think he's like 1 or 2. So, Hey guys, look, I'm sitting outside of a meeting, man. I really enjoyed this, but I got a 6:30 meeting that I have to be at. Can I share one thing with you guys before I go?
Absolutely.
So I just want to, first of all, you guys are great, man. You had great questions. I mean, outstanding questions. I love it, man. You took me back. I was feeling it. You guys did your homework. You know football. You know sports. You know, and you knew me. So I mean, that's great. And I'd love to do this again. I just had no scheduling conflict today. I thought it was going to be at 4, so I had a scheduling conflict. But look, I have an event. I don't know if you guys are busy on this Saturday, but on Saturday, April the 27th, out in Columbia, Lake Elkhorn Middle School, I'm having an event. It's called Love and Basketball. So it's a celebrity basketball clinic where for kids, co-ed 5 to 18-year-olds, right? They can come. It's free. I got a bunch of NBA players coming, some NFL players, and even an Olympian that's going to be there on Saturday. Man, if you guys are free, man, it's from 11 to 2, Lake Elkhorn Middle School in Columbia, Maryland. It's going to be outstanding, man. I would love to invite you guys out if you can make it.
I'd be interested in coming to that. How would I go about if I did come? How would I go about doing that? Would I just show up or?
Just show up at this stage. Just show up and ask for me, and see me and introduce yourself to me, and you'll be good to go.
So just tell that you told me to come. Gotcha.
Well, you're very interesting. I'm interested.
Middle school.
Yep.
It starts at 10. But the basketball playing portion is from 11 to 2.
I'm very interested. The later part of that portion fits my timeline better.
It's going to be other core athletes that come out and meet them.
Oh, very interesting.
What? Awesome. Sounds good. I appreciate that.
I will try to make it there, actually.
Yeah, and introduce yourself to me. And Pastor Sutton's going to be there also, okay?
Oh, yeah, and then we can meet in person. That would be great.
That'd be great, man. So look, I'm at my destination. The bellhop may come to my door.
It was great having you on, Mr. Ray Signor. Hopefully we get you to come on many more times.
I'd love to do it again, man. Been great. Y'all did great, man. All right?
All right, you too.
Thanks for coming. Have a good one.
Okay. Okay, that was Mr. Ray Signor. Now we're going to transition into one more football topic, or maybe 2 more.
I did great, man. All right?
All right, you too.
Thanks for coming. Have a good one.
Okay. Okay, that was Mr. Ray Signor. Now we're going to transition into one more football topic, or maybe 2 more, and then some more things. I know Nick wanted to talk about top 10 wide receivers in the Super Bowl era specifically. I have a list. At 10, I got Chris Carter. At 9, I got Marvin Harrison. At 8, I got Larry Fitzgerald. At 7, I got Julio Jones. At 6, I got Antonio Brown. I gotta give respect to guys that did it in the past. Although I don't like the pre-Super Bowl era, so I don't have any guys like that. But give me Michael Irvin at 5. Won 3 championships in the 90s. Was probably the 3rd best player, or at least top 5 player in that dynasty. Megatron, Kelvin Johnson at 4. This was really get spicy. Who I put at 3, who I put at 2, but no hot takes yet. Terrell Owens at 3. Give me Randy Moss at 2. You already know who's number 1, Jerry Rice.
Interesting list. Interesting. Disagree with pretty much all of that. So here's mine. Number 10, Julio Jones. One of the best receivers of the last decade, if not the best, arguably. So gotta put him on there, especially in this great era of receivers. Number 9 is pretty controversial. I got Terrell Owens at 9. I feel like he gets overrated a lot just because he was just a fun personality. I feel like people don't actually know as much about their performance and just know how memorable they are because he was one of the best celebrators ever. I feel like gets overlaid a lot because of stuff like that. Number 8, Antonio Brown, has had many off-the-field issues, but still can't take away how good he was. Chris Carter at 7. Can't really tell you too much about him. Wasn't alive to even see him play, but I know he was a great player. Number 6, Calvin Johnson. I feel like he also gets overrated just a tiny bit, just because he was so freakishly athletic, but he only played 9 years, and I think I got him knocking for that a bit. Number 5, Larry Fitzgerald. Probably the second greatest longevity receiver behind Jerry Rice. He was never really the best receiver in the NFL for a couple years, but he was one of the best for 15 years. Number 3, I got Marvin Harrison.
Marvin Harrison at 3, even though the only reason why I put him low is because the playoff woes that he had before 06.
I don't like to base off playoffs that much. Not because if you're on a bad team, you don't get the opportunity to play the playoffs.
Had Peyton Manning in 2000 was better than Tom Brady.
Agreed, but
he was the best quarterback in the league, arguably the best player in the league, besides, of course, Ray Lewis.
I still think he was up there. I mean, 1,300 catches. He had the single season reception record for 20 years or something like that. I think he's one of the most underrated players ever. Number 3, Steve Largent. He was probably the earliest guy on this list, 70s, 80s guy, but he was probably the best receiver for most of his career. He was extremely productive. His stats aren't all that great, but you have to remember in the 70s it was more common to throw interceptions and touchdowns, so it's a completely different era, and if you performed that well, then gotta knock him up. And then number 2, Randy Moss, no surprise there. Number 1, Jerry Rice, no surprise there either.
A lot of people don't know this about Steve Largent. He played most of his career in the 80s with Jerry Rice, actually. He only played about 4 years in the 70s.
Yep.
He a great wide receiver, but to me, like I always say, is a difference between the greatest and the best. But to me, when it comes to wide receivers, it's really hard to rank them based off of certain accolades in championships, because you see Tyreek Hill, somebody who I would have had on an honorable mention. I just listed in my top 10 quick, but he definitely was an honorable mention. One of the best wide receivers this decade. Probably we're going to go on greatness because everybody else is young. He's probably the greatest of this decade. You see that the Chiefs won back-to-back Super Bowls without him. Tom Brady and the New England Patriots won 3, was a dynasty before Randy Moss. So it's really hard to rank wide receivers based off of accolades and stuff. So to me, that's the only list where you could argue that the best is pretty much the greatest, or I would say maybe about 80%. Because the only guy you could probably argue should be lower on my list, I feel like, is maybe Michael Irvin, and then maybe Marvin Harrison should be higher, but that's about it. Everybody on my list is a dog.
I didn't have Ocho Cinco on there.
Oh, I would have had him as a.
He's not even top 20.
I might have had him as an honorable mention, and that's a maybe. But Ocho Cinco was an absolute dog when he was playing.
He's in the Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he's good enough to be in the Hall of Fame.
I think he could be, but he's been retired 15 years. Hasn't gotten inducted yet. There's 30-plus receivers in the Hall of Fame. I don't think you can consider him top 10 if he's not even in it yet.
Yeah.
I think he's going to go, though.
I think he will eventually do.
There's also so many great wide receivers. Like, it's OD stack.
What about Art Monk?
Art Monk, Commanders guy in the 80s. Don't know too much about him. I think he's up there. I think he's close to top 10, but don't think I can put him quite there.
Let's see. I think Art Monk for his time, yes. I believe he played for Washington.
won some Super Bowls. He is a great wide receiver, but I think the guys specifically in the next decade in the 90s were just a little bit more individually talented, and I think this is one of the lists where you can really look at individual talent and rank the wide receivers based off individual talent instead of strictly on accolades.
Want to go to quarterbacks next? So since we're already on the topic of passing.
Yes. Ooh, this is going to be very tough. Where would I put Drew Brees? Because I'm talking about the difference between the greatest and the best.
I can go first if you want, unless you want to.
Ooh, I'll go first. I'll give some shout outs and then I'll give one honorable mention. I want very tough. Where would I put Drew Brees? Because I'm talking about the difference between the greatest and the best.
I can go first if you want, unless you want to.
Ooh, I'll go first. I'll give some shout outs and then I'll give one honorable mention. I want to pay respect to the guys that did it early on, like guys that I think if you give them enough time, that their game could potentially translate. John Unitas, who was the best at his time, you give him enough time, he could probably be a really good quarterback today. Maybe not top 5, but maybe if you lowball it, maybe like in Jared Goff range. I think you would be very generous to say he would probably be a Joe Burrow, but that's like best case scenario. And then Bart Starr, I think he would be no worse than Brock Purdy and potentially no better than Trevor Lawrence. But I would probably go somewhere in the middle with both. And then Russell Wilson, although he had some like controversial things to say, what he should have said as far as he kind of helped put black quarterbacks on the map. He should have probably said that he helped get it more recognition, because Doug Williams, he did it first. Like he won the Super Bowl first, but Russell Wilson showed people that you can win with those type of quarterbacks, and then you saw later on a lot of people get more African American quarterbacks. Like the Panthers started to trust Cam Newton more, even though he was already drafted. Then a guy named Patrick Mahomes came along. Lamar is here now. Guys like C.J. Stroud, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love are here now. Potentially a Kalen Williams, and then a couple years before, Deshaun Watson, before his incident, was an elite quarterback. So I wanted to give those three their own shout out for what they did for the game. And there's 11 guys that really I feel like deserve to be on the list. And I kind of, it's very hard. This is why I think the greatest and the best differentiate. Because if we're just saying the best, Drew Brees is probably no lower than 5 or 6. But what I do, I if the talent is close enough, or if the success is close enough, that's why I kind of base it off. Like when my NBA rankings, I kind of had to differentiate from the 9 to 12 slot because it was so close. So the guys that had a championship and at least one Finals MVP and at least an MVP got on my top 10. But it's very understandable. And even if I put Drew Brees on the list, I don't know specifically where I will rank him, but probably anywhere from that 5 to 10 slot, you could slot him in there. So I want that as a disclaimer. 10, I have John Elway. I think his last year really helped. Without his last year, going off in the sunset, winning the Super Bowl MVP, he might have not even been on his list. So he got decent longevity. You could argue Drew Brees is very close. I almost switched that. I almost switched Elway and Drew Brees completely, but I just really don't know where this perfect slot to spot Drew Brees. At number 9, Give me Kurt Warner. I respect. I kind of respect. I think it's because we're seeing what we're seeing with Patrick Mahomes. I kind of respect peak over longevity. The man from '99 to 2001 won MVP, 2 MVPs and the Super Bowl MVP, and I believe at least 1 Offensive Player of the Year, maybe even 2. Terry Bradshaw, I got it. There's not a lot of. How many players do you know have led their team to multiple Super Bowls? Granted, I think the last 2 Super Bowl runs were stronger than the first 2, but he was still dominant. He was towards the end of his career, the MVP of his era. Talent wise, I think he's good. I think that's probably the only guy you could probably argue talent wise in comparison to the other guys aren't there. But I also kind of just want to pay my respects to the guys that did it before, because I do believe he did have talent. It's a reason why he got drafted first overall. Is a reason why he was able to execute in big games. Granted, he also had an elite defense, but you can say the same thing for guys like Tom Brady. His first 3 runs, and at that time he was still an all-time great quarterback. Maybe not top 5, maybe not top 10, but he was still one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, even before he started to like really dominate the league once, like in 07 going forward all the way until he retired. Number 7, Steve Young. What that man did in a short period amount of time is absolutely insane. I think he had 8 years starting, and he won 2 MVPs, a Super Bowl MVP. If he played, the 49ers probably should have won at least 2 Super Bowls with the team that they had. So he played better in the playoffs. He probably could have been up here, but I really would like this. I think it would really be interesting to see a full career of Steve Young. And he's also considered one of the best dual threat quarterbacks of all time. 6, give me Brett Favre. What he did from 95 to 97. You don't really see a lot. Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like these last 5 guys speaks for themselves. At 5, give me Aaron Rodgers. At 4, give me Peyton Manning. At 3, give me Patrick Mahomes. Number 2 goes to Joe Montana, and you already know who's number 1, Tom Brady.
I agree with like the top 5, 6, 7. I just don't see how you can have Kurt Warner on there. I feel like he gets overlooked a lot because he had such an amazing story, but he wasn't that good for that long. Look at most of these all-time great quarterbacks; they're good 15 plus years. He was only good for about 10 years, and I think he had a lot of inconsistencies throughout that. Some seasons where he barely played because he wasn't that good, and we also have to look when he did have all that success. He had amazing teams around him, the greatest show on turf, greatest offense ever. Then for the 2009 Super Bowl, his MVP season, he had Larry Fitzgerald, Antoine Bolden, Edgerrin James, other great players. I think he's borderline Hall of Fame. I think he's a Hall of Famer, but I feel like he gets overlooked a lot just because of his story. I do think he's one of the greatest QBs ever, but I don't think he's one of the best ever.
Yeah, this is where our opinions differentiate. I just value peak, what you did when you were at your absolute apex, over the longevity of the sport. Because there's a lot of guys who played forever. Dan Marino played forever. He didn't accomplish half of the things that Kurt Warner accomplished. So I just value that more. Like, because football, nothing's guaranteed. So what can you give me in these 5 years? And that's what Kurt Warner did, and that's what Kurt Warner executed on.
I can respect that. Alright, so I'm in my top 10 QBs now. Number 10, John Elway. You got the same one there. He covered it mostly. Great 15, 16, 17, 18 year stretch. Won 2 Super Bowls. Did go off in the sunset. A lot of people have him in their top 5, some even in their top 3. I feel like he gets overlooked a lot because of those last couple years. And he wasn't this insane regular season quarterback. He was good, but he also did great in the playoffs, which I don't value as much as other people. I think regular season is more important than people think. Number 9, Pat Mahomes. That one's self-explanatory. Probably the best start to a QB career ever. Still going strong.
Mahomes was only at 9. You must really love longevity.
Yeah, I guess. Number 8, I got Brett Favre. He such an interesting quarterback. Had the most yards, touchdowns ever for a long period of time. But he threw so many interceptions, and he was the definition of the gunslinger quarterback. He was the gunslinger, and so he got respect and put him up there. But he's not up there with like the all-time like top 5, just because of those interceptions and how many mistakes he made. Number 7 is Steve Young, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks ever, like Javonta said, but he didn't really play a whole long time, but when he did, he was very good. Number 6 is Aaron Rodgers, one of the most efficient QBs ever, probably one of the most talented ever, been good for a long time, several MVPs. I think that one's self-explanatory. Number 5, Joe Montana.
Montana at 5?
I kind of want to put him even lower, just because
That's absurd.
Look at his stats. He had 40,000 career yards. Warren Moon had more.
Do you not know how that man got down to us?
He had the greatest receiver ever.
He won 2 Super Bowls.
I don't care if he won Super Bowls.
He won 2 before Jerry Rice even came.
He also had some of the best teams ever, and I just don't value Super Bowls as much as you do, I guess. He just
won 2. I think he solidified.
Stats.
If he doesn't get hurt in 1990, he has 5 Super Bowls. And elite, maybe 4 Super Bowl MVPs, but at least you add that on top of there. Mahomes not even close to him at that point. He would have to at least get one this year and then another one next year.
Like I said, I think people overrate him because of his playoff success. He wasn't this amazing regular season quarterback. He did great in playoffs, but I don't think regular season is more important to me because that's how everybody gets the same opportunity in the regular season. Not everybody can get to the playoffs and show what they can do there. Yes, your playoff success does, and your ability to play in the playoffs does show a lot, but the regular season is 16 games. If you're not good in the regular season, you can't get to the playoffs.
But that's the most important thing, the playoffs. Why do you? Some people still put Dan Marino in their top 5 or in their top 10, but that's a reason why he's not in that conversation because he didn't get it done. If Lamar Jackson never gets it done, he's gonna be put out of that conversation. And I'm the biggest Lamar fan ever, but if he never wins, I can't put him with Steve Young. I can't put him with Brett Favre. I can't put him with Aaron Rodgers.
I think the difference is I just value different things. Like I value longevity. I don't value playoff success as much as you do, and I don't really value Super Bowls that much because it's a team sport. It's about how your team performs with you. Yes, quarterback is the most impactful position in the game, but it's only a part of it. Like that's what I'm gonna say there.
Like it's what we're seeing now. Like a lot of these dudes are there. Like a lot of these teams are winning because of how great their quarterback is. Granted, it's not all about the quarterback because there's years where Ray Lewis is the best player. Well, Lawrence Taylor was the best player, or you just have a stacked team, but it is the most important.
Yeah, I don't think this is something we're going to agree on. I just value different things. But anyways, at 4, Dan Marino, self-explanatory. One of the best regular season QBs ever. That's why a lot of people put him lower because he didn't do well in the playoffs. But
I think y'all glazed Dan Marino. If we're going off a best list, yes, he might be top 5 or top 10.
He had the best stats.
But greatest, I think is the difference between the best and the greatest.
He led every stat category until Brett Favre for 20 years. But number 3, Drew Brees. That one's hard to say. I think he's one of the best ever, but for going off greatness, he probably should be lower because he didn't have all those accolades. But until Tom Brady came around the last couple years of his career, he led every passing category, which I value a lot because that just shows how dominant you were in so many places. Number 2, Peyton Manning. I don't think many people are going to disagree with that one. And then number 1, Ben Roethlisberger. Tom Brady.
I really do like that top 3 because you can argue Drew Brees should at least been co-MVP in 2009. I think people glaze it when they say he probably should have won 2 or 3, but definitely 09 should probably at least been co-MVP. I like that.
I agree.
Even though I personally put him lower, I just really didn't know where to rank him.
The other thing with Drew Brees is he had very little to work with to get to the Super Bowl. He never had great defenses, and he didn't really have much to throw to. Marquez Colston, most of his career, was his best target. He didn't make a Pro Bowl once in his career. And he didn't really have much to throw to. Marquez Colston, most of his career, was his best target. He didn't make a Pro Bowl once in his career. In the end of his career, he had Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. So that helped him a lot in the end. And when he had those players, he got pretty decently far in the playoffs. Just got unlucky a couple times with the Minneapolis Miracle.
And in that 2008 NFC Championship game, I'm not even a Saints fan. That game made me mad. We have time for one more segment. It's a little bit shorter. I want to talk about the top 5 defensive players in the Super Bowl era. And no matter what I say, okay, that's enough time. And no matter what I say, it's going to be controversial. There's 6 guys that I feel like can go in there. And the 2 guys I'm debating between is Ed Reed and Deion Sanders. I'm gonna sound like a homer anyway, but Deion Sanders did technically play for the Ravens, but I have him as my honorable mention. Ed Reed is number 5 for me. Reggie White's number 4. Aaron Donald number 3. I think he gets glazed a lot, but I think he's still great. Lawrence Taylor number 2, and you already know who my goal is, Ray Lewis.
Can't really disagree with that too much, except for the Ray Lewis part. But for me, number 5, Mean Joe Green, probably the first great defensive tackle ever with Alan Page, one of the best ever. A long time ago, so it's hard to really know how good he was because they didn't record all those stats, but his legacy is amazing. Number 5 for me. Number 4, I'd probably have to go Deion Sanders, greatest cornerback ever. I don't think there's going to be much controversy there. All-time great. Number 3, Deacon Jones. That's going to be a surprise to some people.
Deacon Jones was great, but I don't know. Top 3, though? Maybe top 3.
He had 3 seasons of 20-plus sacks, and if I'm remembering right, those were all 3 straight seasons.
I see the vision, though. I disagree, but I see the vision.
They didn't record all those stats back then, so people didn't realize how great he was. But when they went back and got all those stats, they're not official stats, but they're still listed because people have went back to see it. I mean, he was absolutely ridiculous back then. Number 2, Aaron Donald. Don't think there's going to be much controversy there ever. Best 9-10 years of maybe anybody's career ever. Number 1, LT.
No Ray Lewis? Are you being a Steelers fan?
No, just Ray Lewis. He's probably like 6 or 7. I don't know. I don't think it's hard for me to explain, but
did you not know what he did in 2000? He probably should have won the MVP. He was Defensive Player of the Year, and he was Super Bowl MVP. He was by far the best defensive player in the league. I think that's
1 year.
And then what he did the rest of the decade, you have all-time great Raven defenses. The 2000 Raven defense, the 03 Raven defense, the 06 Ravens defense, the 08 Raven defense. That's 4. That's 4 different. And I probably can name somebody. 01 was great. 04, even though they didn't make the playoffs, 04 was great.
You think I might?
2011 was great.
You think I'm being biased because I'm a Steelers fan? I think you're being biased because you're a Raven fan.
I think it's at least somewhere down the middle. At least Ray Lewis got at least be top 3.
I don't even know if he's the greatest linebacker ever. Right there, I'm gonna say.
What?
I think he is, but I think Dick Butkus is also up there.
No, my God, Ray Lewis was absolutely the man. But I believe that's all the time we got. It's your host, King JTH, here with my man Nick, and we'll be back next week.